Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Following the lead of many other shows, East LA Cape is going to be digital this year. The East Los Angeles Comic Book Art and Pop Culture Expo, or CAPE for short, was founded in 2016 by a group of lifelong comic book and pop culture fans. They all grew up in East LA and are headed by Peter J. Malini, who owns Nostalgic Books and Comics in San Gabriel, California. The show is dedicated to creating community and bringing together artists and vendors from our surrounding neighborhoods so that we can all enjoy in the art that our community has to offer. This is the second episode of our Virtual Artist Alley, where we will be highlighting our community of artists and vendors. Joining us here today, we have Donna Letterese with Draw DVL Productions. Donna is an illustrator, comics creator, and arts educator. She loves working in ink, color, pencil, and printmaking mediums to create botanical illustrations, greeting cards, comics, and children's books illustrations. Donna also loves making puns, and she's a huge fan of koalas. She teaches cartooning in art classes for kids and teens at schools, libraries, and museums in and around LA. She has been teaching at Barnesville Art Center since 2010, and she's currently teaching through Zoom. Donna is in the MFA program in illustration at California State University, Fullerton. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Donna.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. Hey, hello.
So let's start with the basic. How did you get into art?
I've always really loved art and storytelling. And ever since I was little, I just really liked drawing all the time. And my parents were teachers. And so they would always read books to me. And I really liked books with pictures. And pretty much from the time I could get my hands on like a crayon or a pencil, I always just wanted to draw and to make up little stories where I'd write things and then I'd add little pictures to go along with it. When I was younger, like a really little kid, I was super into comics, and then I kind of moved away from comics for a while and was more into painting stuff. And then when I was in college, I kind of moved back towards comics because I was studying theater and playwriting, and I was also doing painting, and then I realized illustration and comics bring everything together. So I've taken art classes, and I've also just always drawn for fun and loved to read different books and illustrated anything I could get my hands on. And I've been super focused on it since I was about 20. So.
Perfect, thank you. So tell us today, what are you selling or what services do you offer?
I'm still figuring out selling stuff just because of everything being remote right now. When I do sell stuff, I sell greeting cards that I make. A lot of them have really terrible dad jokes. Sometimes my friends call puns Donna jokes just because they're like so terrible. But usually I'll have like a picture on the front, which is a visual image, and then the inside, or sometimes the outside, depending if it's a blank card or not. Like sometimes it'll be like two friends holding like stuffed animal koalas. It'll say like, you're a friend of the highest koality, something like that. I have another card I've done where it's like a girl riding a really large koala, and she's actually hugging a stuffed animal koala, and they're having like a tea party on the koala. So it says you're a friend of the highest koala, and then TEA. So sometimes I sell greeting cards that are silly like that. Sometimes they're totally handmade. Sometimes they are printed. I also sell and make my own comics. I have different stories, and I've been making those for forever. I have some different ones that I want to eventually start printing and selling once we're all back in the in-person convention circuit. Those I've been working on in school for this past about year, maybe half a year. And I also sell prints of stuff that I make. Sometimes that stuff is fan art. Sometimes that stuff is based on my own characters. Sometimes it's botanical illustration. Most of what I do is pretty cartoony, but I do really love plants and flora, and I do some, like, I guess, scientific natural illustration. So I sell those, sometimes prints of those, sometimes cards. And I also make little Sculpey characters. I need to order some more Sculpey because I don't have any with me, but I'll sometimes make a little animal or like a little piece of jewelry, and it'll be sometimes a koala because I'm obsessed with koalas, sometimes a cat, sometimes a dog. So I make like a combination of stuff, which is, I guess, craft and then also like comic and narrative related.
Great. So how can people find you?
Instagram is a pretty easy way to find me. My name is @drawdvl. My last name is Letterese, which is really long and kind of hard to spell. And my initials are DVL because my middle name is Victoria, and I love to draw. So I've just been going by Draw DVL for a long time. Most of my things you can find that way. That's what I am on Twitter. On my website is Draw DVL, and that's for like illustration, cartooning, children's books. And I do have a different website, which is DonnaLetterese.com, just my name. I ended up doing that just because one of my professors told me you should really make sure like you own your own name for your website. And also that's how I separate out my botanical illustration. So that's how you can find me.
So why koalas?
Uh, why koalas? Well, I love animals. I love all animals. When things are more normal, it's like safer to not be as socially distanced. I tend to like ask someone if I see them, oh hi, and talk to them if they have a dog. I'll ask permission to pet their dog. I love cats. I love dogs. I love anything fuzzy. But I also really like stuffed animals. And this is kind of silly, but since I was little, I've had this stuffed animal named Fuzzles. And like my obsession with this teddy bear has gotten to the point where the teddy bear has his own Facebook page, he has his own Twitter. I've made like little videos and just been silly with him talking. I haven't done too much with that. That's mostly just like a thing my friends have to put up with. I've thought about actually giving him like a little YouTube channel and like making him into more of a character, because I do end up drawing kind of little Easter eggs of like a stuffed animal koala, or like stories or cards or different things with koalas in them. So my initial obsession came from the stuffed toy that I've had forever and been obsessed with. And then just since then, researching Australian animals, there's lots of really cool different ones. There's echidnas. I don't know if you guys know them. They're related to the platypus. They're the only other egg-laying mammal in the world. They're called monotremes, and they kind of look like a platypus because they have a similar beak, but they've got these really big claws and little spiky backs like a hedgehog. And there's so many Australian animals that are kind of like fun, unusual, different. People don't know about them. So because of my obsession with koalas, it's kind of expanded into my love of other fuzzy and or scaly things.
Real cool.
I actually, let me see. I will just hold them up. So this is Fuzzles. This is the start of many of my obsessions. And yeah, I actually, because I collect stuffed animals, I have a lot of stuffed koalas by this point. A couple of years ago, one of my coworkers at Barnstable Art Center, my friend Aviva, she had this really, really, really big koala that had been her daughter's, but she hadn't played with in forever. And so she gave it to me at work. And I thought he was really, really cute. A lot of people were a little bit disturbed by him because I can actually show you. He's a really, really big older stuffed animal. He's quite large. And he is actually, he's not soft when you hug him. He's got like, I guess he's almost made like a suitcase, because I think he's made with leather and he's kind of like hollow in the inside. I think he's very cute, but a lot of my friends think he kind of looks like Frankenstein because he has his arms out and he's just kind of like this like funny character. So anyway, I don't really know if this is relevant to the interview, but this is just indicative of the fact that my koala fixation just keeps growing. And yeah, I've named him Fuzzenstein because I was gonna name him Mega Fuzz because he was big, and my friends were like, he looks like Frankenstein. So yeah, he may be a character I turn into a thing too one day.
That's real cool. So how did you get into teaching art?
I got into teaching art. I always actually worked as a teacher in capacities even when I was working part-time. When I was in undergrad, I did a lot of theater stuff too, and I always taught kids theater, and I was also tutoring. And then when I moved to LA in 2006, I worked as a homework tutor, and I was focused on just mostly like math and English and stuff like that. Occasionally I got to do an extra class called Scary Stories, where you'd help kids write stories, which was really, really fun. And then after that, I was not teaching for a little while. For 2 years, I worked as a comic book editor, which was really, really fun. It was a pretty intense experience, but after I did that for 2 years, then I went back to teaching. And I've always loved working with kids, and tutoring was really fun, but it wasn't really like the specific thing that I do. I feel a lot more qualified qualified, haha. I didn't even try to do that on purpose. But I feel a lot more qualified teaching, writing, and art together. And comics is the perfect thing to do that. So in 2010, I proposed a teaching class at Barnstable, and I've been teaching cartooning there ever since. And I've also taught zine making there. So I called it zine making and card tuning, another pun, haha, because it was all about like how to self-publish your own greeting cards, how to self-publish your own actual zines, how to use the photocopier, how to print your own stuff, how to hand make things, how to make accordion books. And I did that class for a little while at Barnstable, and then for the past few years, I've been doing one called 3D character design. So I have them actually make 3D characters out of Sculpey. Usually the cartooning class, it's almost all drawing except for one Sculpey lesson. But the 3D character one, I have them sculpt characters and then do their drawings based on their characters, and I have them actually pose the characters, and we do like a photographed comic set with them at the end. And yeah, so, excuse me, I've taught at Barnstable since 2010. And I've taught at a bunch of other places too. I've taught cartooning workshops at libraries around LA County, which is really cool. I teach art at MOLA, Museum of Latin American Art. I don't come up with the lesson, but the lesson's always based on whatever is in the gallery. So that's really cool and really fun. I worked at Citizens of the World Charter School in Hollywood in their after school program. I did comics there. I worked there for, let's see, I worked there from the end of 2013 up until 2019. And I also worked at Meltdown Comics for I think 5 or 6 years while it was running. And I worked at William Grant Still Art Center in South LA. I think I worked there for about a year. I used to run around all over the place and teach art. The only reason I'm teaching a little less now is because I'm actually back in school. And so it's pretty difficult to fit stuff into my schedule. So at the moment, I only teach at MOLA when they need me. And also I teach all day at Saturdays at Barnstall.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a point where I had like 4 or 5 different jobs I was like running to. Like I worked in an office and then I'd go teach. Usually I was like going to 2 or 3 places a day. And it was fun and I loved it. But I started to scale back a little bit when I was applying to grad school because even getting the application together is super stressful. And then once I got into school, just time-wise, it's really, really hard to do like 4 different jobs and then work. I moved Barnstall to Saturdays just so I could make sure to be there. And so that way, if I needed to do anything close for my school or if I could do a teaching gig there, and also like I never know my class schedule. So it just kind of made more sense to leave the week open for stuff and to dedicate Saturdays my cartooning day.
Nice. So how has this pandemic affected you?
How has it affected me? It's been very, very stressful. I don't know how much personal stuff I should talk about since, you know, I want it to be like a fun and uplifting thing for people to see. I'm currently away from where I live in grad student housing. When everything was shutting down and my closest friends who lived there were not going to be staying, so I decided to leave for a little while. And a little while has turned into a lot longer, especially because my school is going remote. So I'm a California resident and I'm paying for my apartment. I just don't know when it's kind of like safe to go back. I also have some like issues with my apartment needing fixing. So at the moment, I'm just kind of waiting to be told like when that's safe to go. It's been very stressful for me for a few reasons. I mean, it's not as bad for me as for a lot of people. So I feel kind of even weird saying it, but like I tend to be a pretty anxious person. So I've been kind of following worldwide the severity of the virus since it broke out in China and Italy in like January. So even when no one else was really anxious about it, I was pretty freaked out by it. My parents live, well, my mom now lives in New York. My dad passed away and I haven't been able to travel. So just waiting for it to be safe to either drive across country or to get in a plane has been really stressful. And I've been really lucky that I've been able to visit my family pretty frequently since I lived in California, since I'm from New York. And I don't know, I'm just really hoping everything will be like safe enough for me to see my mom soon. That's probably the biggest thing. And I really, really miss my friends and my professors and getting to work with my students. It's one of the joys of my life to go in on Saturday and to be at Barnstall all day and to work with the kids. And I'm glad we've finally been able to set up Zoom. So yeah, so I guess the pandemic's been hard for me, largely like managing anxiety, just trying to navigate everything and just kind of having like people in places I love across a few different places and like not being able to like physically get to them at the moment, especially New York. That's been the hardest thing for me. So, and also just being a cartoonist and a teacher and like the kind of not knowing what's going to happen with things. Hoping that, you know, cities and community centers, all that stuff will have a budget to be able to continue arts education. Will people still want to and still even be able to like afford art and comics and all that stuff? So it's mostly largely for me been just like a combination of all of the like, I don't know. I imagine if Scrat from Ice Age were going through a pandemic, that's kind of how I've been.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we will be showing all of Donna's contact information immediately after this interview, so everyone can just take a screenshot and follow you on all of your social media platforms. Thank you again. And until next time, see you all soon.
Have a good one. Thanks.